If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is a deep dive on the Adeptus Custodes Forge World Terminators, the Aquilon Custodians. The unit comes in either 3 models or 6 models. They are also on a 50mm base instead of the Allarus Custodian's 40mm base. You may not have heard of the Aquilon Terminators, and I'm not going to lie, the reason for that is they're not very good. So instead of looking through all of the detachments, we're going to look at the data sheet and then 2 of the detachments that I think would be the best for the Aquilon Terminators. We will see if the rules in those detachments can buff up these Terminators to be as good or better than our Allarus Terminators. Or will this be another Forge World unit that does not come close to the power of some of our more used Codex Custodes units? First, let's take a look at the data sheet. The Aquilon Terminators have a movement of 5, toughness of 7, 2-up save with a 4+ invulnerable, 4 wounds, 6+ leadership, and an OC of 2. They do have 3 different ranged weapon options: the Infernus Firepike, 12-inch range, D6 attacks, strength 6, AP 1, damage 1, with ignores cover and torrent. We also have the Lastrum Stormbolter, 24-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1. This has rapid fire too. Finally, we have the Twin Adrathic Destructor, 18-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on a 2+, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2, with twin linked. For our melee weapons, we have the Solarite Power Gauntlet, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2. Then we have the Solarite Power Talon, 7 attacks, hitting on a 2+, strength 7, AP 2, damage 1. For our war gear options, we can have 1 ranged weapon and 1 of these melee weapons. The unit composition is 3 to 6 models, and it can be led by an Allarus Shield Captain. For the abilities, we have Deep Strike, Martial Kata, Heavy Assault Infantry. Each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack that targets the closest eligible target, reroll the wound roll of 1. We also have from Golden Light, once per battle at the end of your opponent's turn, if this unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can remove it from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. You may notice that even though these Terminators are on a larger base and more beefy model, the stats are the same as the Allarus. Currently, 3 Allarus are 180 points for a fantastic unit, while the Aquilon are 195 points for a more subpar unit. The top stats are the same. What about the weapons and the abilities? That is where the Allarus and the Aquilon are quite different, except for Golden Light. We will start with the ranged weapons. These weapon options are terrible. The Infernus Firepike, 12-inch range, D6 attacks, a torrent weapon, strength 6, AP 1, damage 1 with ignores cover, or the Lastrum Bolter, 24-inch range, 2 shots, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1. The Twin Adrathic Destructor is damage 3, 18-inch range, 1 shot, strength 6, AP 2. The fact that it is twin linked makes the Aquilon ability to re-roll range wound rolls of 1 into a useless ability. There is a melee weapon option for anti-horde. Maybe we take the Infernus Firepike, the torrent weapon, for some anti-infantry shooting, or the Adrathic Destructor for some anti-elite infantry shooting. And what about those melee weapon options? The Solarite Power Gauntlet is better than the Custodian Spear by 1 more strength, while the Solarite Power Talon is quite a bit different than the Guardian Spear or the Castellan Axe. The Talon is more of an anti-infantry horde weapon, 7 attacks, strength 7, AP 1, damage 1, while the Power Gauntlet is 5 attacks, strength 8, AP 2, damage 2. 7 attacks is nice. I would rather take the Power Gauntlet for the extra strength and damage. Strength 8 will be wounding Space Marines and other toughness 4 targets on a 2+. There is no re-roll wounds in melee though. The Aquilon ability only allowed those re-rolls with shooting weapons. At least they have Golden Light though. Golden Light is a great ability for a slow 5-inch movement unit. When we start a unit on the board, use a rule to remove it from the board back into reserves. That is considered a reposition move. And repositions do not follow the arrive from reserve rules. They can arrive from Deep Strike turn 1, but only if you go second. I would rather start them in reserves and then banking on going second, keep them for a rapid ingress threat, then use Golden Light to put them back into reserves, then we can even rapid ingress them again in a later turn. Next is the ability that I think really drags this unit down, Heavy Assault Infantry. The rule is what makes us never take this unit, unless this unit goes way down in points. Reroll wound rolls of 1 with our ranged attacks is just not that good. Compare it with the Allarus Slayer of Tyrants, where you can reroll wounds when attacking a character, vehicle, or monster units, and that's the entire wound roll, not just ones. And that is also in shooting and the fight phase. I would rather have Slayer of Tyrants on this unit instead of Golden Light. Golden Light is a really useful ability. Heavy Assault Infantry is terrible for this unit though. It does not even give us the Assault ability. It's in the name, and we don't get Assault on any of these weapons. The Aquilon have never been cheaper than the Allarus Custodians. They've always been more expensive or around the same price. I would always choose the Allarus unit unless I wanted to try the Aquilon unit for some casual fun. The weapons and the heavy assault ability really drag this unit down. I'm only going to look at these in our top 2 detachments to use the Aquilon. The unit does nothing special to be worth digging through all of our detachments to find a hidden gem detachment or combinations. We're only going to look at Shield Host and Lines of the Emperor. The Orion dropship is too expensive to use, but it does have some interesting things on the datasheet. The Aquilon Terminators are Aquila awful. We will start with the Shield Host detachment. The detachment rule is Martial Mastery. At the start of the battle round, we can select one of these 2 abilities. Each Adeptus Custodes model with the Martial Kata ability, melee weapons gain critical hits on 5s, or models with the Martial Kata ability, melee weapons equipped by models gain +1 AP. We could equip the Power Talons to get more total hits in the fight phase. A single unit of 3 could make for a great anti-horde unit. 3 Flamers and 3 Solarite Power Talons to reap some light infantry units. 21 melee attacks with sustained hits 1 or lethal hits on a 5+. That is a lot of attacks. They are only damage 1. If we are facing a bunch of 1 wound models, great. If not, these would feel underpowered. Let's look at one of the enhancements, since we can join an Allarus Shield Captain to this unit. And we could add that Allarus Shield Captain to the unit and add Panopta specs to the Allarus Shield Captain. We could reduce the cost of stratagems by 1 CP per battle round with Strategic Mastery. Is it worth the points for the Captain with the enhancement to Ignores Cover on the Aquilon? No, I would use those points elsewhere. The low amount of shots is the main reason. It doesn't really matter that much if you have Ignores Cover if you only have a few shots going their way. The Torrent weapon already ignores cover. It's just the Lastrum Bolter or the Adarathite Destructor. That's not a lot of shots, not really worth the 1 CP. Let's take a look at some of the stratagems in the Shield Host that can power up the Aquilon Terminators. We have Arcutech Munitions for 1 CP. This will give the Aquilon lethal hits or sustained hits 1 in the shooting phase. If we are using the Torrent weapons, this stratagem will not help at all. The thing that hurts the Aquilon range weapon options is the amount of shots. We'll have 6 Twin Adrathic Destructor shots or 12 Lastrum Stormbolter shots. Not something that screams, use sustained hits or lethal hits. It is an option, but I would use this on a double tap Custodian Guard unit first. Next up is Arcane Genetic Alchemy for 1 CP. This will give us a 4+ Funeral Pain against mortal wounds, and we can wait until those mortal wounds have been allocated. Nothing kills Custodes like mortal wounds. The Allarus and the Aquilon are toughness 7 with 4 wounds each. They hate devastating wounds. Arcane Genetic Alchemy is the best protection for mortal wounds in all 6 Custodes detachments, as well as one of the best mortal wound protection stratagems in the game. The power comes from how we can wait until we've taken mortal wounds until we actually use this stratagem. 2 to 3 mortal wounds, save the CP. 4+ mortal wounds, we may want to consider using Arcane Genetic Alchemy. Multi-Potentiality for 1 CP, that is our fallback, shoot and charge stratagem. The ranged weapons might not be the best, the melee though is still quite potent. Fallback, shoot and charge is very useful on the Aquilon. They do not have a lot of melee threat to vehicles without an easy source of reroll the wound roll. Strength 8 power gauntlets can only do so much. Multi-Potentiality, make sure we have the Aquilon into the right targets when we can. The detachment rule really helps the melee potential of the unit. Critical hits on a 5+ or extra AP 1 on the Power Talons has some potential. There is Arcutech Munitions to add sustained hits 1 or lethal hits on the ranged weapons. The sad thing is those ranged weapons are just not that good. A fallback shoot and charge stratagem, protection from mortal wounds does help keep them on the tabletop doing damage. Does the Shield Host add enough to make the Aquilon Terminators a viable choice in a list? Not at all. I give the Aquilon a 3.5 out of 10 in the Shield Host. The Aquilon Datasheet needs more buffs than the Shield Host can provide. The other detachment I want to take a look at is Lines of the Emperor. The detachment rule is against all odds. Each time an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicles, makes an attack, if there's no other friendly units within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. Against all odds is in the shooting and the fight phase. Lines is the one and only detachment we can power up the shooting of the Aquilon Terminators. Lines of the Emperor loves those wound rerolls. It is why we love our Allarus, Custodian Guard, and Virtus Praetors shooting in the lines so much. Those larger 50mm bases on the Aquilon being outside of 6 inches a bit harder. Against all odds is still a great rule for the Aquilon. We are going to move right to the stratagems. There is some strong enhancements we can put on the Allarus Shield Captain. A lot of the times when we have Ad Moni Mortis on the Shield Captain, we have them attached to the Allarus Terminators to have those reroll the wound rolls. The Aquilon do not give reroll the wound rolls in combat, so we're probably not going to attach an Allarus Shield Captain with Ad Moni Mortis to this unit. The first stratagem is defined to the last, a 4+ fight on death for this unit. 1 CP for a 4+ fight on death is a good way to hopefully power gauntlet some heads in if the Aquilon are brought down. The 3 model unit, you may want to save the CP on the max 6 model unit. If something is charging it, they probably have a good chance of doing some damage and taking out some units. It might be a good time to use Defiant to the last. Next up is Maneuver and Fire for 1 CP, our fallback shoot and charge stratagem. Any unit that has some shooting and melee threat will love fallback shoot and charge. The guns are not as impressive as some of our other infantry units. Some extra shooting damage along with their strong melee always helps though. Peerless Warrior for 1 CP, this will give all the melee weapons in our Aquilon unit the precision ability. Not a stratagem we'll be using all the time, but when we are facing a faction or list with a lot of character heavy units that are buffing up those units, Peerless Warrior is great for taking out those character models. The last stratagem I want to talk about is Unleash the Lions for 1 CP. We can use this on the Allarus Custodians or the Aquilon Custodians. This stratagem will split the unit up into a bunch of 1 model units. The Aquilon can use Unleash the Lions too. It seems if we were a Custodian Terminator unit, we can use Unleash the Lions. Being able to break this chunky unit into 1 model units, great for late game scoring. I would not take a bunch of Terminator units and hope to have a bunch of single model units running around the board. It only makes it harder to be outside of 6 inches of friendly units. It's much better for scoring in the late game. If we can, we want to save Golden Light until after we've used Unleash the Lions. That way we have a bunch of different 1 model units with Golden Light. The Lines of the Emperor might be the best detachment for the Aquilon Terminators. That is not saying too much though. This might have been a good choice in the Lines of the Emperor if the Allarus Terminators did not exist. They do though, which is why I give the Aquilon a 4 out of 10 in the Lines of the Emperor. Even Lions cannot overcome the Aquilon Datasheet. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. Well, that was a rough one. 2 rough deep dives in 1 week, Custober 2025, I could get some of these less known unit deep dives out. I did not go through each detachment, it would have made the video longer and boring. It would have been the Allarus deep dive, but worse. If you do want to use the Aquilon, I would use the Shield Host or the Lines of the Emperor detachment. What do you think of this unit? Which has the current title for the worst unit in our deep dives? The Orion Assault Dropship or the Aquilon Custodians? Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Follow us on Facebook as well. I have a link down in the description. Channel members gain early access to videos and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.